Hey there, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. You're listening to No Bed of Roses. So glad you could join us. I have my good friend Kevin Hall back with us for a second visit. Great conversation, lots of laughs. So settle in, relax, and here's Kevin.
We're getting Kristen's stereo worked on by this guru wizard audio technician,
Okay.
Over in a town called Eagle, which is just right next door to Boise. It's
Evil? The town of Evil?
It could be, but it's Eagle, like the bird.
Eagle. We have an eagle too. Okay.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, we got an
and
eagle.
So this guy, I think he's he's just one of these sort of virtuosos when it comes to electronics. And he's also, I think he's ex-military. we haven't really talked about it, but he looks like it.
Sounds good. That sounds good.
And
right?
he's trying to help us figure out something that's going on with the navigation antenna that does the GPS on the little screen in the dashboard. And he's like, I'm also kind of a nut when it comes to the USGS. I track a lot. He's like, there's no conspiracy theory stuff, nothing like that. Don't worry about that. But
did he actually put that right up there? No conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly. He sort of like did a little sidebar with that and said, don't worry about it. But a lot of the
was he wearing an aluminum foil hat while he was having this conversation with you?
That he interchanges with his television set to get better reception. And so he said, we have been getting reports of solar flares from the sun, which can tend to affect things like the GPS signals that we get from the GPS satellites and other signals. And so who knows? I mean, maybe is Venus in retrograde? I don't know what could be happening.
Solar flares. You got solar flares. That's legit. Solar flares can do it.
No conspiracy theory. Don't worry.
No, that's good. I think, especially in Idaho, forgive me.
If you have to say it,
that's the thing. If they're putting that up front there and call 1-800-NO-CONSPIRACY theories for all your IT needs.
Right. It's like when they advertise a hotel that says no cockroaches, clean sheets.
Right. That's right. Not that we ever saw one. We never saw one. We're just getting out ahead of it.
Because we want to be ahead of it. Yeah.
Yep. No conspiracy theories. That's good. That's like no hydrogenated oil. And
right.
They add no.
What the hell is hydrogenated oil in the first place?
No QAnon added. That's good.
Well, he was on the phone. He has a. I'm guessing he's probably in his 60s somewhere.
Yeah.
And he still has the high and tight, that they give you in the military.
Oh yeah.
And he's got the flannel shirt and the jeans, and he's got his flagpole in the front yard with the flag and the "Don't tread on me" with the snakes and all that. He comes out when we pulled up because you go to his house. He's a really highly regarded dude with what he does, but he works out of his garage.
Is he on the outskirts of town? Is he on the main drag? Where do you find this guy?
He's on the main drag. He's right in. Well, it's Eagle has Old State Street, Old Town Eagle, and he's just off of Old Town Eagle. State Street.
Hold on. Last we talked, you were cruising State Street to go get envelopes, and
that's correct.
Now, was that the same State Street, or is this old abandoned State Street? Which State Street is this?
For anyone out there listening, grab your Google Maps.
And nobody is, so feel free to say whatever you need to say.
There's State Street, otherwise known as Highway 44, that goes east and west all across the valley here in Boise. And then there's Old State Street, which...
that's the one I'm interested in. Old State Street. That's the one.
For I'd say 4 or 5 miles through the town of Eagle, it runs sort of parallel to, do we call it New State Street or Current State Street or Present State Street?
I don't think we can replat your city. What do they call it?
They just call it State Street. And then if you qualify it when you're going on Eagle, are you on Old State Street or just State Street?
So that would be that's a conversation. That's not something that Google Maps picks up or anything. That's just a right?
Well, no, you can actually see it if there's it's sort of an offshoot that you take off of a street called Edgewood Road, and then it kind of curves north and then continues west, and it's actually it's called, I think it's called Old State Street.
Old State Street, and there's a sign, Old State Street, and how far do you have to travel?
It's like 4 or 5 miles.
Oh, this is he's inside town, right?
He's in town. Oh, he's fully in a suburban subdivision,
but probably was not. When he first set up, when he was homesteading, he was probably out on the
homesteading, surrounded by cornfields.
That's what he would have been, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's right off there off of, I'm just doing a little research and trying to figure out what they actually call the damn thing. West State Street.
West State Street
versus
State Street proper, just State Street, which goes down and you're coming from the east side to west, and there's nothing like. There's nothing like he says, stop in front of the DQ. A driver will meet you there. You'll get into his car. He will then take blindfolded, sit in the backseat. Nothing like that.
Nothing quite like that. But when he was walking up to the car, he had his Panasonic cordless telephone that still plugs into the wall as he was holding it against his. And the guy's like 6'4". He's a pretty large dude.
Right.
And he has a presence about him. He's really high energy, very talkative, very chatty. And as he's walking up to the car, he's saying to whoever he's talking to, "Oh yeah, that guy. No, can't we just? Okay, well, you got to get some other senator or some other congressman here. So there's got to be some other. There's got to be some other conservative representative of government." And then some response, and the guy's like, "Well, wait, no. Well, why is that? Why is that? Well, can't we go around him?" And so he's having this whole banter back and forth I'm like, "Oh God, no, please." And then conservative Sean Hannity radio turns on the AM thing when he plugs in our stereo, is because we're sitting there in the car. We have our masks on and he doesn't have a mask.
Oh boy.
He's immune. Right. And so
but it's this is, I had an episode that I'll share with you at our local Lowe's, God bless them. But, the mask is to protect you guys.
It goes both directions.
Right. I mean, but the first thing is, I'll think about someone else. But okay, so he's calling in, Eagle has landed, Black Ops 5, whatever. Okay, I gotta go. Oh, hang on. It's just, hey, Mom. And he's talking to his mother, probably.
Right. Can't we go around him?
Mom.
He's like, can't we get some conservative senators or some kind of representative from the Conservative Party that can go around this? Can't we? What do we got to do here?
I gotta go. I gotta fix this guy's stereo. We
gotta fix the. It defaults, and he's going through the settings, and it's AM, and it's FM, and it's XM, or it's satellite radio, and all that crap, and then it goes to FM, like whatever it is, 580 or 640 or something, and it's Sean Hannity, and he's buzzing around and back and forth between his garage, and I'm sitting in the back seat, Kristen's in the driver's seat, and I'm just like, God help us, please. Turn, and I'm like leaning forward, pressing on the screen of the stereo system. I'm like, just turn the AM radio off. Anything else but Sean Hannity in the morning advertising Pillow King or whatever the guy's name is. Literally, like it's a bad comedy. Like the guy who was on the news about like the supporter that bailed the kid out of jail with a machine gun. He's the Pillow King dude.
The pillow guy.
Sean Hannity is advertising. I have had the best sleep I have had in years from the Pillow King, and I am just enthused and absolutely enthusiastic about this.
Sleep? I thought he just stands in the corner.
Just
some kind of low idle mode.
That's exactly what it is.
Eyes glowing. I didn't know that he slept.
As the radio stereo technician dude walks back to his garage, I'm just like fumbling through settings. I'm like, please, Kristen, turn the thing to something else. and I don't want him to say anything that's going to irritate me. I don't want him to be like, yeah, that guy's all right, isn't he? And I found a station and she was like buzzing through, and then we were listening to like Spanish like ranchero music or something like. Oh, you
didn't get NPR on? I thought you should go right to.
We were going right to the other direction.
Yeah, go hard left or wherever the hell.
Yeah, I didn't want him to turn into like a grease spot on the front car seat of our car.
Mars attacks when they hear Slim Whitman and their heads explode.
Yeah. So, but I mean, and then it ends up being like he's actually, when we get on the phone with him, we're still troubleshooting this issue with the stereo system that's tied to the navigation system, where you look at your navigation on the screen, and he's saying it may be this antenna that he doesn't deal with. And so I'm thinking, oh geez, so this guy's like, I don't know. But yeah, it was spooky delving, sort of dropping into this suburban subdivision where you don't know. I mean, it's usually you go to like a business establishment, but trusting our auto shop here in town that
you're supporting local, and you're shopping local, and
local.
This is a neighbor, and you're doing the right thing, right? I do like the initial no conspiracy theory disclaimer, though. Right?
Yeah, if you got to make that kind of disclaimer, I mean, and there are so many revelations that are happening where I sometimes when I'm looking at social media or whatever, I just think I still want to like you. I can't look at stuff that comes on people's feeds anymore. It's stuff that people used to be able to have a conversation and still leave that conversation, whether it was a debate, and still like each other and still be friends. And it's kind of devolved into some other thing. He's unusual and super type A, super high energy and nonstop. And he's like getting on the speakerphone with the tech support department actually in Syracuse. He's like, I deal with all the OEM equipment over there with these guys, and I got a first name basis with Tony and with Mike over there. And so, these guys, excuse my French, but he's pissing me off a little bit because, he usually gives me the straight skinny on it, but now he's trying to tell me that it's not this. It could be the antenna, and you got to take it over to Peterson GMC.
And he was actually talking to a 21-year-old Filipino girl in Manila going, sir, first, may I ask you, sir, how your day is? Are you having a stupendously wonderful day? Because I am now that I am speaking to you, Mr. Yeah.
It was a Filipino girl.
Get me Tony.
from Manila.
Yeah. I don't know Mr. Tony, but I'm sure he's a very good human being. Have I ascertained the quality of your day yet, sir?
And when there will be a short survey after our call, if you wouldn't mind completing the survey.
Let's go to the survey right now. Let's just go right to that.
Cut right to the survey?
Can we just go right to that freaking survey and minimize my pain? It's just... And then get
1
me
star, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars,
get
and then
me
there's tears coming down, and I have a smiley face that's so big that I'm going to tip over.
Get me Tony. Just get me Tony. Yeah.
Tony wasn't too helpful either. He was a little cranky. I think it's because we were calling him after he was supposed to be off work, and we're 2 hours different,
Did he actually get Tony? It's at customer support though. Did he actually?
Yeah, in Syracuse.
Oh.
Yeah, he.
So this guy's the real deal, man.
Yeah, he's hooked up. He used to have. Apparently, he had the huge legit operation in the Bay Area, Northern California, years back before he moved to Idaho, and had retail locations and mobile trucks that would run around and do stuff, and now he just does it sort of as a hobby / passion out of his garage.
Well, you found the ringer. So what are you going to do on Yelp? Are you going to give him a great review? He didn't do anything other than tell you it's this antenna, and Tony and I don't deal with antennas. What
you got to go down to Fairview. You got to go down to Fairview Boulevard of Cars in Boise.
Oh.
And
he knows a guy?
Where they're like,
does he have a guy?
Su coche, su Chevrolet in Worthington, Chevrolet in Fairview and Boise. We're still troubleshooting it. He's a good guy. He's helpful. He's nice. He's trying to work his way through it. He gets out there with his little electric drill and unscrews the whole dashboard and takes the stereo out. Does the little disconnect in the back. He actually sent the whole thing to Syracuse overnight mail in this special UPS or FedEx thing, and then they receive it there and they do all this stuff. They put a new motherboard in it, and then they send it back.
Wait. So he did all that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought you was. I'm sorry. I thought the story stopped when you said it's this antenna thing. So he actually did some work for you guys.
Oh well, yeah. He's on it. He is definitely on it. He's done a bunch, and it's cool to see sitting in his driveway, and you're just in the car while he's taking the whole front of the dashboard apart and pulling the thing out, and then he closes everything back up, and he says, "Okay, I'm going to ship it overnight to the factory in New York, and then I'll call you after they hook it up to all of their electronics, because I guess it's some sort of special equipment OEM thing where because it's electronically tied right to a specific car and right to a specific VIN number and a whole bunch of other stuff, that you could certainly go just get a whole brand new stereo and put it in and get different nav system. There's something with this car that you have to, if you want all of the original
you have to get a new car. If the stereo stops working, you got to get a new car. This is what happens,
basically what
right?
I'm saying.
It's so involved now. Are you driving a Tesla, a rocket ship? What kind of car is this?
It's not actually. It's a 2009 GMC Yukon. Like a Suburban, basically.
Very advanced.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's basically like a giant computer. But they put a new motherboard in that has to do with the navigation, because the whole reason that we started taking it to this guy was it was causing the battery to die, because the little driver or the machine or the fan or something that stays on after you turn the car off that cools the whole sort of system in there was staying on for no reason. We couldn't understand why it was staying on, and it doesn't start because the battery's dead, because the fan just kept staying on. And they determined that it was this motherboard had fried, so they had to replace this motherboard that had something to do with the navigation aspect, because it's all part of the stereo, the navigation.
This is this is even with my 8-year-old Mac, the video processor is it is welded. It's soldered to it practically is welded. It's integrated into the motherboard. So that's it. You're screwed. There is no, you can't just pop out one component and then and replace it. So similar.
Well, when they're starting to say things like, well, a lot of people these days are starting to just use their map on their iPhone to navigate. I'm like, you think I don't do that? I mean, I do know that there is.
Have you thought about a new car? Have you thought that this is where it's going?
Yeah, it's like, oh shit. Maybe we need a new radar dish on top of the car.
Holy cow. That's the workaround. Use your freaking phone. That's because that's being updated. And yeah. So other than the fact that the guy could be some kind of black ops, whatever, he was pleasant, he was proficient, he was on it, he was obviously trying to really solve the problem, right?
100%.
Yeah,
cool. I would definitely, he would get my positive Google review and recommendation to do all things.
But he didn't wear a freaking mask, Kevin.
No. There's a contingent out there that just and Kristen was talking about this the other day. It's like, well, what if it was polio, or what if it was Ebola? And your doctor told you, hey, well, you could increase your level of safety if you did this, this, and this. And when everybody lose their mind.
Wait, COVID isn't good enough? It's killing 3,000 people a day. What you
exactly?
You have to find an alternative disease. What if it was? It's the worst thing to happen to humanity in a century. So
I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's how do I just don't. I'm having a hard time. Like,
why? You know why, Kevin? You know why you're having a hard time? Because there's a problem with your motherboard. We have to ship everybody's motherboard back to Syracuse and reprogram it, because
Tony is going to be busy through the holidays.
There are 70 million people with different motherboards, and there's no way that it's going to, there's an antenna, there's a thing, and it doesn't work. And so I'll tell you, it's the same. I'm going to give you the same advice.
You nailed it. Use
your fucking phone. Okay. Just use your phone, because that'll fix everything. So
yeah, don't worry about the $600 motherboard. Just use your phone.
Use your phone. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing for the mask. I'm not just not understand. Yeah. Just use your phone. That'll fix all of it. So I was saying we had a story to share about Lowe's. So we go to Lowe's. It's because Kristen needed Christmas lights, right? She realized, like everybody else who realizes, that when they start to set up crap, these lights don't work.
Yeah. There's one that's out, then the whole thing has to go. And
that's
you have
right.
To have a PhD
that's right.
in engineering to be able to correct it.
Right. And then you got a binary thing. Do we ship these lights to Syracuse, where they seem to be able to fix everything, or do we
OEM manufacturing?
That's right.
Facility,
Tony's getting backed up, so do we? Let's give Tony a break. We'll go to Lowe's. It is the order of the city, right? That everybody in the city of Fort Collins, any store, you have to wear a mask.
Sure.
So we're in there. I got the dog. We're wearing a mask. Everybody's wearing masks. Everybody. And then I see this Yahoo turn the corner, and he doesn't have a mask on. So I just turn. I got Melbourne. I go, and I think I said, dude. I always say, I don't really say dude, but I think I said, dude, you don't have a mask? And he said, excuse me? I said, where's your mask? You don't have a mask? And he said, what? Mind your own business. I said, this is my business. He goes, mind your own business. What are you talking about? You're asking me about a mask? I said, yeah, everybody here has masks. Why aren't you wearing a mask? You need to have a mask. And he said, I can't even remember what something, he said something else. So now we're getting into an argument and this guy doesn't have a mask. And I'm literally within spitting distance. And I got the dog. You remember that episode in Central Park where the lady was, the black guy was bird watching and she's strangling her dog while she's doing the whole 9-1, which was probably the more horrific. I mean, the whole thing was a shit show, but I thought later after this whole thing went down, Kevin, I thought, my God, was I twerking in on poor Malibu? I don't think so, but it made me think about, you forget what you're doing. And because my pulse was definitely elevated because this guy goes, I said, it's the law. It's not the law, you idiot. It's a mandate. I said, don't call me an idiot. And now it's just completely devolved. And Kate, my daughter's there, right? Kayla's there, Kristen's there. And I didn't want to be in that close proximity with this guy. And so I just walked around the aisle, went around the other side, and I'm looking at all these other families. I mean, really, everybody in there is wearing a mask. And I said something about just think about someone else. And so I can't remember the rest of the conversation, but
well, good for you, man. I mean, I'm so happy you did that.
Well, but this is, so then Kristen and I start to unpack this thing. And she said, that's one of those situations where then the nut bar goes out to his car and gets a gun and comes back in. And I mean, and those things have happened. Right. Yep. Those things have happened. Yep. And I didn't think about that at all. I don't think I thought about anything. I did think about how many times have I had to, in my career in hospitality, de-escalate a situation, have a hot guest or something like that. And really what I want, and many times I wanted to pummel that person also, Kevin, but this guy, I just thought, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me that you could be this self-obsessed, this self-centered, this self-absorbed, but it was real. The guy was legit. He had the balls to come out in public and really give the big FU to everybody around. And so, what kind of person is that? That's a person with that different motherboard. They have a different,
100%. That's a wonderful analogy.
They've 100%. Got a different motherboard. And 100%. There's certainly it's not going to happen in an argument. But I'm not sure that there's any kind of conversation that will ever bring that person around to understand, hang on a second, this isn't necessarily about you in this moment, right?
Exactly.
And I don't know that there's anything, when you see every day and you talked about, social media, every time you look at social media, I think, God, just don't do that anymore. But you see every day how this is just, you think it's the worst it could be. And then there's another level of stupidity, of arrogance, of anger, of disconnect. It's amazing. I mean,
it is. It's like I love the motherboard sort of analogy on the whole thing, because I think a lot of us try to just reconcile, like, well, how can we fix it? How do we, I'm trying to be productive. I'm trying to, think about the bigger picture, the greater good, and when you have people that there's just an absolute, it could be your neighbor, it could be somebody that you've seen every day for the last 10 years. Hey, you're friendly and social. And then suddenly you get into this sort of discourse where something else is revealed about their motherboard. And you're like, oh goodness, that is, I don't know if we can recover from that. I think I'm wired optimistically, but I hate to hear myself sound like that when I say something like, I don't know if we can recover from that. But the sort of, how do you get someone around the idea? And I guess I just go to other areas or other comparisons rather, where you say, well, if this was some other thing that we have context for, we don't have enough context for COVID. I mean, we have a lot of context now because 3,000 people a day are dying, and it's a global pandemic that's, on a proportion that nobody in humanity's ever seen. If this was Ebola that we have context for, or this was polio that we have context for, or Spanish flu that we have context for, would it be that big of a weird political statement that people feel like they're being controlled by the system or the government or, socialists or the far left or whatever, if they said, look, if you don't want to die, here's some precautions you can take?
You're always going to have a percentage of people, Kevin, who are just going to go the other way. They're just going to go the other way, maybe just because that's where they are, or because they just want to be opposite of the majority of thinking. They're iconoclastic or whatever, or just to be difficult. You mean, and there's a percentage, whatever that percentage is. There's a percentage that was definitely impacted by the messaging from leadership or lack of leadership, because everybody's just looking now. You see this fatigue where people just go, and this could be on the right and the left. I mean, my mom said this the other day, and then Kristen saw an interview with a guy who is a Trump follower or whatever, and just this sense of exhaustion. I just don't know what to believe anymore. And that's from both sides. And that's where so many of us are operating from. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. But we're so far past that initial message. A guy like Biden, whether you're for him or against him, whatever, but somebody saying, hey, for 100 days, guys, right? 100 days, let's all wear masks. Let's look out for you. I would guess there'd be 30, 40% more participation, something like this, I think, where people just go, well, that seems reasonable. Okay. But we all know, all the buttons were pushed. And so nobody was listening anymore. And I'll tell you something else that I feel like I'm seeing. A million years ago, Kevin, when we were back in LA, and I think it was before we actually met, I was dating this girl who said, hey, I want you to go down with me to San Diego and meet an old professor of mine. His name is Robert Livingston, Dr. Livingston. He's a brilliant guy, worked at Scripps. And long story short with this thing, Kevin, was we sat at some amazing restaurant overlooking the ocean. I want to say this lunch was like 6 hours, something like this. This guy, and you can Google him, was the foremost researcher at the time, and this is 20 years ago now, in neonatal brain development. But this guy was a true genius. He looked like Clint Eastwood. He was in, I want to say, his 80s when I met him, still skiing. He was the Dalai Lama's science consultant.
Wow.
So yeah. This is probably a whole nother conversation, but the core of what he shared with me that day was in the development of the human brain, he was able to show that coddling, physical contact between the mother and the child, was completely necessary for maximal or maximum neural network development. Okay, so what does that mean? That means if an infant is not coddled and loved and nurtured, physiologically, there are certain neural pathways that do not develop and never will.
Holy shit.
It's irrevocable. There's nothing you can do. I said, so wait, you can say black and I can say white and we can both be right?
Yeah.
And he said, yes.
Man, yeah.
He said, neurologically, yes, because you may not have the neural pathway, the neural network to process the information.
Yeah. Wow.
Physiologically, you can't do it.
Right.
That really stuck with me. And I feel like in interactions, especially now where, we're stymied, we go, wait, how?
Yeah.
In the wide world of sports, do you not see this?
How do you not? Yeah. Yeah.
There's a theory that the Native Americans did not perceive Columbus's ships. Have you heard this, Kevin? Ever?
This sounds familiar. Yeah.
I think it was from The Secret. Was it in that movie, The Secret, perhaps? Which sounds real woo-woo now next to Dr. Livingston's research.
Right. But I do recall something along these lines about the indigenous people and perceiving ships or not.
They didn't see them coming across the horizon. There have also been studies, and again, I don't feel as comfortable talking about this stuff as I do about Livingston because I sat with him and but there are also studies that because this is the Eddie Murphy thing, no right angles don't exist in nature, and so indigenous peoples don't perceive them. They actually cannot see them.
Like the optical recognition,
it doesn't exist.
Capabilities,
there's
physiologically in their brain.
Correct. Yeah. There's no reference point. And now, again, maybe on the woo-woo side, but he has done the comprehensive research. Kevin, if you held your babies, nurtured your babies, loved your babies, we didn't. They're going to grow up with two different belief systems just because That's their motherboard.
I mean, it's like that expression, like unlicked cub.
Same deal, but and that result is physiological, irrevocable. So if you're dealing then with, this is like somebody who's born without an organ, a muscle set, or perhaps, and is there a therapy? Is there, can you compensate for that? Well, I mean, if the neural pathways are not there, if the synapses don't fire, and I'm not a neurologist, if the car can't travel down there, if there's no freaking road, how you getting there? Anyway, off on a tangent a bit.
Well, yeah, I'm with you, right? I mean, that helps me, actually. I mean, that really does. I mean, there's a lot there, and there's like, I mean, if you heard of Joe Dispenza?
Joe Dispenza. No.
He's
does he own a bakery back in Queens? Dispenza's.
He's up in Syracuse.
I feel like I got a Tony. I feel like you could get a good cannoli from Joe Dispenza.
They do catering.
Yeah.
No, he's a PhD, and it's like brain science of some kind, but it talks about kind of what you're talking about with the neural pathways, and how, like, if you use the example of like post-traumatic stress disorder or some sort of, highly acute situation that somebody experiences, it's usually related to war or combat or explosion or death or something insane. But I mean, as we're learning more and more now, PTSD can come from all sorts of things. You don't have to have been a soldier in combat
absolutely
to have that. He's talked about how there are ways to sort of regenerate and reconnect broken neural pathways through, and then he goes through all of the science and all of the neuroscience and everything.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, what you're saying is super eye-opening and super helps me, because I think I need sometimes the logical explanation for things, or to understand why or how something is put together, or why something works. I mean, it's like I got rear-ended. I probably told you the story before, but I got rear-ended by a guy just blazed, stoned out of his mind, in a gigantic 30-foot Ryder moving truck, or, in Las Vegas. And when I get out of the car to go talk to him, I said, "You just hit me." And he's like, "You hit me." and I'm like, he rear-ended me and pushed my car up into the back pickup truck bed of the truck in front of me.
Right.
Hit me,
Right.
And like, there was no talking to this guy. He's like, "You hit me." And I'm like, oh goodness. Yeah, no, this is not going to end well. And so, I mean, it's kind of like that reality that we're dealing with humanity right now. And we can quantify it, we can measure it, we can say, okay, well, let's look at election numbers. Okay, well, so-and-so got this many votes, and so-and-so got this many votes. Well, if we want to use it in this context, the 72 or 3 or 4 million people who voted for the current president are, I mean, of course, this is like an insane generalization, but it's kind of like that, where nothing's going to change their perspective. It is what it is. It's in their wiring. There was some event you probably heard about where they had like some sort of meditation event with like tons of Buddhist monks that did this multi-day event in Central Park. During that time, crime dropped dramatically, like measurably by a certain percent during the time that they were there. Like, I don't know, energetically, when I think the intention is set, there's a certain kind of, I don't know, maybe we become a little bit more like the water off of a duck's back when we're confronted by things. Because sometimes it bugs the hell out of me, and I'm just like struggling with how to reconcile it. And other times it doesn't bug me, like dealing with the hostility around it, or, there's definitely hostility, and it fits in with a type. And then I find myself getting upset with myself. I'm generalizing about a type. That's not cool. That's almost like you could kind of compare that to like racism or sexism, or if I'm saying, okay, this is a type. Okay, that hillbilly over here, or this redneck, or this, that sort of falls into that sort of philosophy and mentality, and it's like becomes predictable, and
all those things are legit. There's no simple answer. I mean, just for me to say, well, so 70 million people were not coddled by their parents. I mean, you can't, they need a hug. Who needs a hug? I mean,
who needs a hug?
Yeah, that's, if there's ever an oversimplification, that's it. That brings us to the end of another episode of No Bed of Roses. It cut off a little abruptly, folks, because we were experiencing technical difficulties. We're having a lot of digital glitching, and it was making us sort of batshit crazy. Hopefully, it didn't make you too batshit crazy. We tried to clean it up as much as possible. Got some new gear, so I feel very good about upcoming episodes not having that challenge. thanks again for joining us. Remember to come back and visit again with us. And of course, No Bit of Roses is available wherever fine podcasts are available. Stay safe, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.